use the Pythagorean theorem in order to find a missing side on a right triangle. So one thing that's important is we have two legs. We call them A and B. And the legs are actually forming or touching the right angle. So from B to C and A to C, we have these legs in red, which are touching the right angle. Those are the two that go together on one side. And it doesn't matter in which order. Like 3 plus 2 and 2 plus 3, the order doesn't matter. The third one is called C squared. And C squared is the word for hypotenuse, or the letter we use to represent the hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse is a Greek word which really would make a lot more sense if we spoke Greek. It's hypotenusa, which means stretching under. So if we look at this blue triangle here, here's the right angle. Stretching underneath it, across from it, is the hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is the largest side because it's across from the biggest angle. In a right triangle, the biggest angle is 90 degrees. So if we can find the right angle here, we can find across from it the hypotenuse. The second thing is to understand A squared means A times A, and B squared means B times B. So a square means to multiply a number by itself. So the last thing will be a little minor step at the end in solving. So let's take a look at how we would use this. If we start with a right triangle, the x can be anywhere, so it's not always the one by itself, but in this one it will be. And here is 3 and here is 4. So first we want to notice that 3 and 4 are touching the right angle. Those are what we call our legs. So we're going to say 3 squared plus 4 squared is equal to the one across from the 90, or x squared. We then can multiply. 3 times 3 is 9. 4 times 4 is 16, equals x squared. Now you can pretend the squared's not there and we could solve for x. We would normally add these now together. And so just like when we have 2x equals 10 and we're solving 2 times x, to get x alone we divide by 2. We do the opposite. Or when we have x plus 3, we do the opposite to get x alone. We subtract the opposite of plus. So in this case, we're going to use the opposite of x squared is a square root. So a square root in math is the inverse or opposite of x squared. So to get x alone when you have x squared, you're going to square root both sides. Now in algebra, you would say the answer is going to be plus or minus 25. But in geometry, when you're using an actual side, you cannot have a negative length. You can't say you're negative 6 feet tall. So we only use the positive answer, and in this case, x is equal to 5. So this allows us to find the distance here. Let's try another one. So the x is not always going to be the one by itself. Some students at first think that's the case. So now let's try. We're going to take the two legs and put them on one side, and that's the 2 touching the right angle. So x squared plus 8 squared is equal to the hypotenuse, or the one hanging across from the right angle, which is 10. We're going to now calculate the numbers. X squared is equal to, x squared plus 8 times 8, which is 64, equals 100. Our first job is to get this squared alone, so we subtract 64 on both sides. And we're going to get x squared equals 36. So again, the opposite of squared is a square root. To get x alone, that will be what we do. We square root both sides. So x is going to be equal to 6. Now, we're going to look at one other thing and how we can use the Pythagorean theorem when we're using a graph. The Pythagorean theorem is what gives us and how we created the distance formula. So we can use it on a graph very easily instead of the distance formula to save a little bit of time.